far as anti-war, I think the question is, where is everybody? Where is everybody? You know, I think it was Danny Searson. He's quite a prominent anti-war advocate. Frequently posts on Tom Dispatch, and yes, you know, why are more people upset? Why are more people upset about what's going on with wars? And I think if you follow this stuff, it's hard not to think that, because, you know, there's a lot of pretty amazingly shocking things happen pretty often. But maybe you don't know. Maybe some people just don't know, and that's okay if you don't know. It's just because, you know, you're busy with other things. I would, if you want a clue, I suggest Google Yemen and the number 50,000. You know, Yemen plus 50,000. Google that. And I don't think you'll find any gore with that, but I can't guarantee that. But maybe that'll give you a hint what's going on if you haven't been keeping up with what's happening. And I've been thinking about this, you know, and I was thinking, you know, when we were kids, my brother had a friend who was German. And his parents were actual Germans in Nazi Germany. And it seems amazing, but that's what they were. And I just remember, oh, that's pretty weird. I hadn't heard anything like it. I mean, it's like, oh my God. But we, you know, we were polite. We didn't bother about it. The story that we heard from them, that we heard from his kid, was that what they said is everything was fine. As far as they knew, everything was fine until the Americans marched into town. That's the first hint they had that anything was going wrong. They were in Nazi Germany, and the first thing they knew anything was wrong was when Americans came marching in. You know, I never really got the whole story because, you know, we weren't going to push it. Like, and I'm not exactly sure how old they were. Maybe they were kids, this kind of thing. And I thought, like, you know, how is this possible? You know, how could they were living under Hitler and they didn't know. And now I'm a little older, you know, I think I see how it works. Maybe I have more sympathy a little bit, you know, that it's a different thing. It's different living through the event as opposed to looking back at history after the event has ended, or after that war has ended. I think, you know, even in the 1970s, we had a lot of stories about Hitler and World War II, even in the 70s. But, you know, those people who lived through it in the 40s, they hadn't seen any of that. You know, all the events that unfolded, they saw it all through their own media, and they didn't have the clarity of hindsight that we have. And, you know, I know this, and I say this because of my understanding of how the world works, but, you know, for Germans in Germany, there was no tally. You know, there's no tally of how many people have been killed that's published in papers. You know, hard numbers, you know, is like, there's no, like, it didn't go up like, oh, there's 1 million dead, and now there's 2 million dead, and now there's 3 million dead. It wasn't like that. I'm sure it wasn't like that. That, like, because I know how this works a little bit, that numbers as far as deaths come after the war. And that's when researchers, you know, researchers went through census data, and they went through, you know, they just went through records, and they did a lot of research to figure out how many people died. It's not an obvious thing during a war to know how many people dying. And, you know, and they have to find witnesses, and it's all, so what it is, it's all vague. Everything is vague until it's over. And then when it's over, it's still not clear. But then when the research is done, that's when it becomes clear. That's when what's really happening comes out. And I think there's also just, I mean, I see this. I see there's a tendency to prefer news that confirms our own national self-interest, you know, we're powerful and we're just, and stories that don't fit that cause dissonance. That I think you rarely change minds with a news story, but I do think if you see something that contradicts your pre-existing thoughts, it's tiring, and it takes energy to rationalize it and to explain it and to resolve it all. And so I think it's partially why the media, for the sake of keeping up with the clicks, they're not gonna feature stuff that's negative about wars prominently. Nobody wants to hear that. The information's out there, but you have to dig for it a little bit. And so, yeah, and as far as like with my brother's friend, the parents said it was the Americans coming in that ended, that finally woke them up. At some point it becomes real in a way that you can't deny it anymore. And then the spell is broken. And maybe this touches a nerve with me a little bit, and the Japanese heritage thing. My father's in the USA during the war, but actually his sisters, the family was split. So his sisters were in Japan during the war. So we had relatives both sides. And maybe this is why we were friends. I don't know. Maybe were we the Axis kids? I have no idea. That's a strange thought, but maybe. I do think now, like, the story of Japanese is what happens after the doomed racist empire collapses. What do you do at that point? That I think, if anything, Japan says that there's life afterwards. After the empire collapses, things go on. Things are not good, but they don't end, and a lot of people suffer, but things somehow keep going. And I think, and even though I'm not Japanese, but I have a connection to Japan. So I think I've been inherited a tendency to be a little bit skeptical, and not of just Japan, but also of the USA. And I think, like, I have, in Japan you have like anti-war middle-aged Japanese lady anti-war politics, and and over there it seems like pretty like normal and mainstream, where here in the USA it seems pretty radical. So I think for me it's like, I don't have that presumption, I don't have that confidence that I'm on the right side. I think for me it's like, I don't know, and that's not something, I don't think that's going away. I can't help it. My brother's friends, whose parents were in Nazi Germany, he died. It's sort of unrelated. It's kind of a rich kid death. He was flying in a private plane with friends. I'm not exactly sure. I think they had newly gotten a license or something like that, and they crashed into the hills around Los Angeles. And I'm sure I never talked to the parents after that, but I imagine they were not happy about that. I don't think this is karma or anything like that. I think it's just random how it goes, that life is fragile, and that's, maybe that's the lesson here. And that's all I have. Thank you for watching.